This is my absolute most favorite way to differentiate, and it's through design. Sometimes there are, well, to be honest, there are some kind of like model designs where you can make like a triangle instead of a square, but I'm not going to talk a lot about that. I'm going to talk about these designs. Book. So this is a server book. It's a book for waitresses and waiters that they want to be, unique and have their own colors. Look at how these designs change. Look at how crazy that is. Look at that. Look at these designs. So cool. So many designs. Now, notice this is the same thing. It's the same thing no matter what you buy. The only difference is the design, and people are buying this based off of how good is the design. So we have to differentiate via design. How do we do that? Well, first we need to find a design. You can go to Pinterest if you want. And I don't really like Pinterest. I'm not going to recommend Pinterest. I like Shutterstock a lot. Shutterstock is my favorite. Shutterstock, you have to pay like a monthly fee for the design, but I already got it. I'm just not logged in. And you got a bunch of designs included. You don't pay that much. It's a great value for what you get. And the designs on Shutterstock are great. And one little tip before you start getting into these designs, when you start getting ready to print your product, print your design, you can't simply get a design, give it to the supplier. So for example, I'm not going to look on Shutterstock. Well, I guess I could look at Shutterstock. Let's go ahead and look at Shutterstock. Okay. And I'm going to do trippy, cool design. I don't know. You can't just get, there we go. Oh, these are kind of trippy. Okay, for example, this one right here in the center with this face here. I can't just give this to a supplier and be like, hey, here, print it. It needs to be ready to be printed. And the person that gets this ready to be printed is your designer, your graphic designer. So you give this to your graphic designer, and your graphic designer will give a file that's ready to print file to your supplier. I mean, they probably don't know each other. So you got to get the actual file yourself and give it to your supplier. And that file is going to be a file that's a ready to print file. You can just go ahead and process it, print it, and you're ready to go. Don't make the same mistake I did. I made the same mistake. I'm not saying you're making the same mistake, but I got a design like this and I gave it to my supplier. I was like, here you go, print it. And they were like, no, it's going to look terrible. And so I went to my graphic designer. My graphic designer modified it. And now it's a really pretty book, right? And that's what you got to do. A couple more tips. If you're going to work with a supplier, which we're going to talk about that in a little bit. If you're going to work with a supplier and you have a cool design like this one, don't give that design to your supplier. I'm not saying all design suppliers are bad, but there are some bad apples out there. And it doesn't matter where you go. Italy, Peru, Colombia, there's always going to be a bad apple no matter where you go. There's going to be a bad supplier no matter what happens. So you want to try to avoid getting caught in some kind of pickle. So don't give your supplier this design. Give your supplier that design, right? You're not actually going to use that. You don't care who gets that. Give your supplier that design and tell your supplier, hey, this is the design. How much is it? And then once they tell you how much it is and you're like, you really like them, you're going to work with them, you'd be like, oh, supplier, guess what? My designer, he was like, whoa, this is a much better design. And we're not going to do this one anymore. We're actually going to do this one now. So you just tell your supplier you're going to switch designs. And it's not a big deal because if you pick designs that are similar to each other, the cost is not going to change at all. And in China, which we're going to get suppliers in China, the cost doesn't actually fluctuate at all. You can have a simple black design and this complicated thing, and it's just not going to change in prices. So be careful with that. With giving designs to suppliers, don't give them your actual design. What's going to happen, and this has happened before with one of my classes, one of my students was like, hey, yeah, I started working with the supplier and I didn't work with them because the cost was too much. And they started selling my product with my design. So avoid that. And lastly, I'm going to show you something that really works well with designs. It's a website called pigfu.com. It's probably one of the best websites out there. I made a video and I thought this video was awesome. And my friends told me it was awesome, and my family told me it was awesome. But I put it on PickFu, and I was like, "Hey, is this video awesome?" They're like, "No, it's garbage." And I was sad, but PickFu told me, I got the opinion of 50 people. That's what PickFu is, about 50 people. You could have more people answer, whatever question you may have, but I got the opinion of 50 random people. It cost me about $50. And because I used a coupon code. There's coupon codes on Google. You could go on Google and be like, PickFu coupon code. Yeah, you have like a million, you have 50% off. You probably only use it once, right? So instead of paying 100, I paid 50. I used somebody else's coupon code. I used one of my friends, but use that coupon code so you get a discount for your first PickFu poll. But it works really, really well. I actually ignored PickFu and I still advertised that video anyway, and I just made no money at all. I just spent money. So I always listen to PickFu now. Now, what you can do is get a design, right? Go back to Shutterstock and just find a cool design, right? And when you find a cool design you might think is cool, trippy design. You might think the design is great. Your friends might think it's great, but you need to be unbiased. Here's that design again, the fake design. Maybe you actually want to do this design, but you're not sure if people are going to like it. You like it, but you're not sure if the masses are going to like it. So that's why we have to do some consumer research. This is really consumer research. A long time ago, you had to pay millions of dollars for this information. Not anymore. Now you can get this consumer research on PickFu. PickFu is the most valuable thing you can have. Very, very useful. I highly recommend it if you're going to do a design and that method of differentiation, which I highly recommend. Get PickFu or bust.